Welcome to Live Courageously. And this is number 5 of my podcast show. And we're living in very challenging times. And because of that reality, I chose the title of Live Courageously because that's been my theme of my life for the last 2 years since the start of the pandemic. Fear is a reaction. Well, courage is a choice. You need to choose courage to get through. And I suggest that you choose courage. So I've done 4 shows so far with some amazing folks that you want to learn from, and you can watch it on my Live Courageous YouTube channel or John Duffy YouTube channel. I spoke with my first guest was Eileen Gruber, an actress, a producer, a writer, a activist in the disabled movement in Hollywood. The second person was Maurice Termite Watkins, a boxer, almost a world champ, a trainer of boxing with kids. And he ended up from Houston, Texas. He ended up taking Iraq to the Olympics in 2004 during the worst time of the war. And we're in a partnership to make the story of his life called They Call Me Termite. The third guest was G. Anthony Joseph, originally born in Trinidad. He's an actor, a producer, a martial artist, an inspirer. And he just gave us some amazing stuff on discipline, focus, and how you live a powerful life. And then the last one that I've interviewed before this show was I did a 2-hour with Jason Cisneros, who is so many things. I can't even get into them, but a motivator, a speaker, an author, a warrior against sex trafficking among children, a business turnaround specialist, and on and on and on. So I spent 2 hours with him. All of them are up on the YouTube channel. So get a chance, go see Live Courageously. And the people I'm going to be introducing to you on this show chose courage in life, and they chose not to retreat in life in general, but also during the pandemic. So when I began planning this show, I originally had 40 plus courageous friends of mine that I planned on interviewing. It has now grown to 65 and is continuing to grow. So I'll introduce them to you one every week and have great conversations with them. Hope you join us. And I'll believe that you'll be inspired by my guests. So today, let me introduce you to another amazing person, to someone, a good friend, Ron WEINREICH. And Ronnie is an Israeli-American artist, an entrepreneur, a leadership development expert based between Israel and Los Angeles. Born in Israel, raised in the United States, he served in the Israeli Defense Force as a tank commander when he was injured in a war between Israel and Lebanon at the age of 20. Ronnie rehabilitated himself, went to business school, became a famous performing and recording artist, and we'll get to play one of his songs today that I particularly really love. And parallel to his musical endeavors, he has cultivated what he calls his alter ego as a transformational business consultant and leadership development expert for one of the world's most extraordinary business consulting firms, Mark Kamen and Associates. Okay, that's just the Cliff Notes version. But he is all that, and he's so much more. And if you meet him in person or just read his posts on social media, you're introduced to a unique, inspirational human that is about making the world a better place. Ron has a saying that captures, I think, a little bit of his life and philosophy. And he says, you get to say how your life goes. So as I step forward, let's welcome my good brother, Ron, to Live Courageously. All right. Welcome.
How you doing,
Ron.
JD? It's so good to see you, man.
It is so fantastic to see you. It's been way too long, man.
It's good to see you. Always.
Well, I always like to start out the show with 2 things. And the first one is just because it's friends of mine and you're a dear friend of mine, is where did we first meet and how did we connect? Because a lot of times it just lets people know how an event can make a connection for a lifetime and can make a brotherhood for a lifetime. So if you remember, if you don't, I remember very vividly our first meeting, but I'll throw it to you first.
I think that we met at this event in Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken, in Hollywood in Los Angeles, right? It might have been either like a screening event of some kind of like veteran film screening event, right?
You got it. That's what it was.
Yeah. And then, and I remember us, they were getting drinks down in like a basement or something like that. And then at some point, the most important part of that evening, though, was that at some point we kind of went outside to the street. It was late at night already, and and we were just hanging on the sidewalk, and getting to know each other. And I was getting to know, you and your background. Was blown away, of course. And just from here to there, it's like we say, birds of a feather flock together. And very quickly, within a few sentences, you know who you're dealing with. And if this is a person, that kind of like I align with ideologically or not. And when I say ideologically, I don't necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily mean politics. I mean, sometimes, it's like an ideology of what humanity means to you or what it looks to you. And I think really quick, we kind of connected.
Well, all of the above is true. I mean, it was, it was a cold night in Hollywood. We were at it was a film festival with military veterans, and that's what all the films were. So I knew a bunch of the people there. But you came in, and I remember when we met inside and went outside, it was freaking freezing outside. And yet we just hung out for at least an hour after it was over, and the conversation just kept going and going and going. And unfortunately, at that point, it got to a point where we had to end the conversation, but I didn't want to, because there was just so much I was learning about you. And like you said, that connection, that we had something in common, that bond, that you just feel it, what it is. And that's led to other times that we got a chance to get together. And, for me, it was you invited me to a Shabbat at your place in Hollywood. And that was a great evening, meeting some of your amazing friends. And that just kind of cemented it for me, our friendship and bond even further, and then there was a couple of things that you wanted to do with me that we never got to do because life kind of threw a thing. I don't know if you remember both of them, but both of them were things that you suggested to me, and I wanted to do both of them. And someday we will at least do maybe one or two or whatever. But if you remember those, I would just like to share it, because it kind of gives a little insight to who you are, the kind of person you are, and why I resonate so highly with you.
Go ahead if you want to share them. I don't want to. I might be thinking of something else. And
well, maybe that's good too. I don't know. I'll throw it to you. You get one, I get one. I don't know. If you remember either one of them, and if you don't, just say I don't.
I think one of them. I think one of them was like was a fund that I was raising money for, called the Healing Dove Children's Fund, right? And I already yes.
Yeah, that wasn't the one I was thinking of, but that was one that I wanted to talk to you about. So let's start there. Let's
okay,
because it takes us an insight into who you are. That also impressed me was that thing when you started telling me about that and what you did. So why don't you share that and what your work was and what you were attempting to do with that?
Well, it's really great that you're bringing this up, because I thought about this a few weeks ago. And, so I'm one of these guys that anyone who knows me knows that I'm always up to all kinds of stuff. And I'm always, kind of like starting this project or doing that. And, I'm even too much to an extent, even all over the place to an extent, always busy doing this and that. So the Healing Dove Children's Fund was actually an organization that I founded while I was out in LA. And the idea was, was just looking at what can really make a difference in the Middle East, but something that would be really out of the box, really kind of extraordinary. Like you said in the intro, in the bio that you were, reading about me, was that I was injured as an IDF soldier. I was a tank commander in the Israeli Defense Forces. And I grew up in the United States, but when I was a teenager, I came to Israel, and then I did high school, and I went to the military, and I had the time of my life in the military. It was the most empowering, most powerful thing I've done in my life at the time. And, I suffered a big injury at war, which really kind of knocked me off my feet. I'd like to say kind of literally, because I've been sitting in a chair and rolling from place to place ever since. And because I suffered a spinal injury. And there's kind of the whole thing in the Middle East is one hell of a phenomenon, man, because it's one of those conflicts that the greatest minds in humanity have all tried to tackle this thing, and probably thousands of books were written about it, and every school of diplomacy and in every university on the planet has studied this and debated this. But at the end of the day, no one has come up with the whatever is going to make it work here. It's like the ultimate conflict, and I was kind of inquiring one day to, what could make a difference, and no matter how I spin it, I have no answer. I just don't know, and frankly, no one knows. No one knows what's going to make a difference in this whole thing. But the only thing that I do know is that it kind of bothers me that kids get messed up, children get messed up because of the conflicts of grown-ups, because it's like, what did they do? They didn't do anything. I mean, I get around in a wheelchair, and I'm actually pretty fine with that, because even though I was a young guy, I still had a mind that I could think with, and I went to a war, and I wanted to go kill bad guys and blah blah blah, and I suffered the consequences. Here I am, big deal. Like, and I really, thank God, I don't have issues about that, because you take risks. Sometimes you win some, you lose some. This is it. This is life. Like, welcome to your life. But the kids, they're kids that they get blown up or maimed or left however they're left, without families, without parents. And that really, even with what's going on in Ukraine right now, you really get messed up when you see the kids. It really messes people up. So I wanted to start this foundation, which was the only idea of it would be, let's raise money and see if we can get kids from both sides and who were injured in some capacity, and to bring them to Israel and to really rehabilitate them, to put them through like a really strong, powerful rehabilitation, physical and emotional and mental rehabilitation program that would fill their hearts, and bridge between the two sides. Because if you think about it, a kid that would be disabled, whether it's emotionally or physically, in this conflict, would pretty much hate the other person for the rest of their life, and so I just thought that would be a cool thing. Actually started raising some money for it, had a team put together, and at some point, to tell you the truth, that turned into one of the projects that I revoked, meaning I gave my word to it in the beginning, and especially when COVID came around, then this whole thing about, getting children between borders. This was in the beginning of COVID. I'm sure you can remember that. God knows what the heck was going on in the world, and it was just insane. The uncertainty, and we didn't know anything what was going to go on at the time. And when I looked at it, I said, "Wow, it's too uncertain. It's too unstable. This is a project that's going to go on the back burner. I'm not going to do it." And I actually called up the donors, and I just gave them back the money. And I said, I cannot fulfill on what I promised you that I would do with your money. So I'm giving you your money back, and put it to good use for something else. And that's how it was.
Well, I just, there's a whole lot in what you just said. There's a whole lot in what you just said. Now, I just want to unpack a little bit of it. But, I kind of resonate, because you talk about the Middle East and the problems with the Middle East, and how long, and the amount of books written. And me, my family came from Ireland, North and South. And so there was a smaller version of what you're talking about, the Middle East, with the Protestant Catholic and the fights that went on there. And recently I saw the movie Belfast, which in the movie, it's kind of told from a perspective of a young kid who's kind of trapped in the middle. His family's Protestant, but the hatred between the Catholics and the Protestants, and eventually it becomes, untenable, and they have to step out and move away, even though they don't want to. But, unpacking what you said, one of the things you said in it, which is one of the things I really appreciate in you and all the readings that I see of you on Facebook, is that, and I think more people need to get this kind of perspective, is like, you said you don't know the answers. Really? don't we all know everything? I mean, people, sometimes we have this thing that we think we know the answers to everything, and it's knowing that we don't know the answers and that we don't know the solution is a place to get to. I think that's a strong place, rather than making believe you do know the answers or that there is simple answers, because there's not. In some of these things, it's very freaking complex. And so I admire you, for saying that, but also then admiring you for being able to say, because of the reality, I couldn't take this to completion, so I did the right thing. And you stepped away. Not to say that you may ever step back again in the future or not. That's a choice that you'll make based on reality. But I appreciate both of those things. But what the third thing to unpack was just, and you had told me about it back then, it was just you. That's what hit me was, okay, here's this guy, American, Israeli, served, got wounded, in a wheelchair, and your focus was, what can I do to help kids of both sides? And I think that is also a powerful thing that we can all see from in all the conflicts that go on, big and small, in life. If we can look at it from the point of view of what we can do for the vulnerable, for the young, for the people who are not causing the problem, it would be a good way to step into it. But I don't know if you want to add to that, but that's just some of the things I'm listening as you speak.
Yeah, the main what I'm kind of noticing, a thought that comes up for me while I hear you talking about this, also kind of giving it back to me, is about the not knowing the answer. You see, like, here's the thing: if some other person probably told me that they started a foundation that's going to buy, baseball bats to for kids in Rwanda, or I don't know what, I would think to myself, oh my God, what, this guy has like nothing to do in his life. What is he, bored? Come on, buddy, like, get a life, dude. Like, you don't have any purpose in your life. So you're just like finding crap to do so you can, make people clap for you or whatever. Like, and I would genuinely have that thought, I would think that. And then I can acknowledge, wow, Ron, what a jerk you are. Like, what are you doing besides judging people and, sitting on your damn couch and saying, look at this guy and look at that guy, and I don't know the answers. I really don't know what difference it's going to make. But I mean, literally, when I decided that I was going to start that thing, and again, I acknowledge that I actually, in reality, didn't do anything I didn't move it forward in the end. But even that for me was like, I see that there is something that that I'm not okay with in the world, and I don't know how to solve it. But I can try, and I can even see, I can try it on. You know how like sometimes you go to a clothing store, there's, I don't know, your wife tells you, hey, JD, there's this pink blazer that you should try. And you're like, hell no, I'm not touching that. What are you, crazy? I wouldn't wear a pink blazer in my life. But then it's like, just try it on for a second. Just try it on. And it takes some mental wherewithal to go, you know what? Okay, whatever. I'll try it on. And then you stand in the mirror and you go, hey, this ain't that bad. I didn't think it was going to look this good on me. Or you just put it back on the hanger and go on to the next thing. It doesn't matter. Like, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, let it go, move on. Find the next thing that works. That's where I stand with it.
Well, I'll come back to this just a little bit later, but I'm going to just jump back to the two other things that you invited me to besides that one. So that would be three things. But, in the future, I want to ask, speak to that one you just said. But that's something I see in you, and I see it on your social media all the time. Two pieces, which I think people can learn from, and people have a hard time with. One is being able to say what you think, and then say, well, think about it again and say, yeah, I was being a jerk here, or maybe I was wrong here. That self-questioning, that ability to have self-questioning, and I'll come back to that with you too, and then the willingness to try things on, and whether they go or they don't go. Both of those things are qualities that I think people can learn from you, but can learn in life as well. The two things you had also suggested to me, and obviously the pandemic threw interest in curveballs on both of those, was one, at one point you were going to rebuild an RV and make it so that you could drive it cross country. And then you offered me to go with you on this cross country tour, which of course, talking about trying on the pink jacket, it was the pink jacket for me. I was like, really? Going cross country? This is interesting. Not something the kid from the Bronx would do normally.
No.
But you knew that, but you offered it. And then, of course, I did think about it a second time, and I went, damn, that would be a great adventure. And of course, I wanted to do it. And I know you started down the road, and then, things got thrown in the way again. And then the same when you went to Israel and you moved down to Israel, you invited me to come and spend some time with you down there, which that was something I was like, yeah, I'd love. I've never been there. That would be a real learning experience for me and a growth experience. So I wanted to do that. And of course, then COVID put the kibosh on that, and you couldn't go to travel into Israel. But anyway, those are three different things that you kind of threw out there into my life that, all of them were things that kind of caught my interest.
Well, the RV is still happening. The RV project is being built right now in LA. And the intention is that by August, it'll be, it's pretty much for just everyone to know. It's an RV that I purchased we gutted it, took everything out of it and turning it into a wheelchair accessible RV that has, like an elevator, like a lift to it and the whole thing, so that eventually we can, rent it out and have RVs that are available to people who have some kind of physical disability or kids with a physical disability that they actually, I learned, unfortunately, through my own experience, that once you are in a chair, once you have some kind of disability, or even, people who are elderly, then suddenly the great outdoors is, you're confined to pavement. The great outdoors are no longer accessible to you because it really takes something to be, in those places. And if you're anything like me, when, there's nothing that connects me more to myself and more to God than just, sitting on some kind of vista in the middle of nowhere where I can't hear any cars and I don't see any people. And, that's just like, I wanted to make that available to people again.
Well, I know when you told me at the time, it just sounded like such a great project. And there we go. That's all right. A great project. And then, so yeah, August. Well, I'm as that period comes, I'm still on board for that journey down the road with you then. So that's a good one. And then, of course, I still want to get to Israel. And that's another journey I would love to go on and get a chance to be experience it through your eyes and be able to get your insights into a place that I know so little about in comparison, obviously. So, but those are cool things, man. But, your life has been so many phases, and you keep, like you said, you keep getting into things. You're somebody who gets into things. And so after the war and you're 20 years old and you're wounded, you went through I think a pretty long rehab till you eventually got to the next phase. And then you started going again. So if you can just maybe take the audience a little bit on that journey from that to the next, some of the things that you went, obviously, to business, to music. Take us through a little bit of your life journey as you went through it.
Well, I'm going to just be brutally frank about this, okay? Because there's ways to talk about this kind of stuff that's going to be, really conceptual and really, really cutesy schmootsy or whatever. But I'm just going to be super straight about this. I went from being a hotshot tank commander, at the age of 20, who's like as gun-ho as it gets and, leading my men, in war. It was the most glorious time in my life, and I was very proud of it. And then suddenly a building collapsed on me and shattered my spine. And within a few days, found myself waking up in a hospital where I was I was like a bag of broken bones. I was physically capable, mentally capable, emotionally capable. And then it all just suddenly, came to a sudden, abrupt stop. And I had to be, they couldn't move me. Everything was super painful. I was, had to have what they call a sponge bath in my bed because they couldn't move me into a shower. You're naked all the time. People have to, in the beginning, it's like, diapers and you can't control anything. People have to put you in the shower. They have to put you on the toilet. You can't do anything by yourself. I remember one time where a physical therapist had to come by and teach me how to put my shoes on. I realized, like God, everyone, it's kind of one of those things that you take for granted. I took it for granted myself. Think about it. You wake up every morning, right? And you think, I'm going to put my pants on, right? And what's the first thing you think about? I grab the pair of pants and I open it. I hold it like this, right? And I put like one leg in and then I put my other leg in and I pull it up, right? That's like me putting on my pants, right? Well, suddenly I couldn't do that anymore. So how in God's name do you put your damn pants on then? And someone had to teach me how to get dressed again, how to put my shoes on. And I remember feeling almost ashamed, not almost, I felt ashamed. I felt like a baby, like, oh my God, I'm like a giant overgrown baby. And humbling is one way to put it, but it was really depressing. And maybe the biggest word would be disgusting. I was pretty disgusted with myself. Like, how did I end up like this? So it took a while until I actually, it took about half a year that I was in a hospital until I was finally released. And man, when I got out of that hospital, I did everything I could to try and maintain my former identity. Everyone suddenly in the world was relating to me as, as like on the one hand, everyone would say, you're a hero, you're a hero, you're a hero, which in my eyes was BS because I didn't do anything heroic. I mean, it was just fighting like everyone else does in Israel. But, very naturally, people related to me with very apprehensively and with care and with a degree of pity, like, oh my God, this, look what happened to him. It's like, oh, it's always in the background. And if, when I'd go to the bank and someone in, the banks, they have those big windows, right? Like usually outside of the banks, and someone sitting in the bank would see guy in a wheelchair rolling up to the bank, everyone in the bank shoots out of the waiting line and they run to the front door. Who's going to open up the door for the disabled guy first? I wish I could strangle those people to death whenever they don't. And I'm telling you, I was the biggest jerk. I wouldn't say thank you to them. I would just give them like a total F you. I hated that I was confined to being pitied by the world. It drove me nuts. And when I became this, like, I want to call, I called myself Ron. That's my name. But when I opened my eyes in the morning, it wasn't Ron that was waking up. Who woke up in the morning was a machine called Ron that his only objective was to not look weak so that people wouldn't relate to him as a broken, incapable person. And that was what I lived for, like everything. I mean, I sawed off I had the handles on my wheelchair, the handles on the back of the wheelchair. I had them sawed off so that, God forbid, someone wouldn't even fathom pushing me around. Because every once in a while, somebody would try and help and they just start pushing me in the middle of the street. Really nice people too. That's the funny thing. Like, I mean, you think about it, it's like, wow, that's such a kind-hearted person. Like, he sees this idiot, going up a hill, like barely getting up a hill. What's the first thing that a nice guy says? Hey, buddy, let me just help you out, And I mean, I almost broke somebody's hand one time because he dared push me, and so that was my life, and it affected me in so many ways. It affected me in my relationship with my parents. It affected, because every time, I don't know, when my mother would ask me, how are you? To me, it was always, what's wrong? And, so, and then I would lash out at her in a very nasty way. Everything's fine. I'd be very short tempered. And it was, on the one hand, I was very effective, very like a bulldozer type guy. But on the other hand, my relationships were suffering until I realized that I was just a huge jerk that's rolling around from place to place, and like leaving a wake of good, kind-hearted people behind me who have to deal with this prickly, I was like a cactus, just, it was prickly, very, very prickly. You touch me, it's sharp. You might get cut if you mess with me. Nobody wants to be, it's not a very fun way to live a life.
And so going through all that for you, Ron, do you remember a point? What was the turning point? Was it one thing? Was it many things that got you to say, okay, this, like you describe yourself very vividly, being a machine that got out of bed to be that strong, to, not let anybody help you. What was the turning point or turning points that made you start to change again, and why?
The turning point that really got me to change, before that, I'll just say that since I was like in a near death experience at a young age, right, and I went through some gnarly stuff in my rehabilitation, I really believed, truly, honestly believed that I have been through the hardest hardship, and that no one can teach me about life. I know that everything that there is to know about life. I almost died. I was through this and that, and even if someone had any kind of criticism to me, I was just a big F you. You're going to tell me how to live my life? You've never been what I've been. You've never done what I've done, right? Until I reached, I fell in love with this amazing girl in LA, and to just put it very frankly, we had just a horrible relationship. Horrible, horrible, horrible relationship for almost 2 years. I couldn't get it to work. We were just, like two chickens poking each other's eyeballs out all the time. And no matter what I tried, I couldn't get it to work. I threw thousands of dollars on couples therapy with the best couples counselor at LA. And I read books on how to communicate with women. And I saw YouTube videos on how to da-da-da-da-da. You name it, I tried it. Spent so much money, I couldn't get it to work. I could coach you on how to speak with your wife and what to say and what to say. But the second that she said something to me, I lost it. I was just enraged, to the point where I was this close to getting physical, to physically reacting. And it scared the hell out of me. And I ran out of the house crying because I thought, this isn't me. There's something is going on here, which enrages me, and it's not natural. And from here to there, I went and I did this course. That is the second most important thing that I've done in my life. It was called the Landmark Forum. And it's what got me into the world of transformation and what I do in my life also today. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to really, to put it in a nutshell, I started to inquire into, instead of looking at myself like as a fixed way of being, like this is just who I am, I started to inquire through that kind of work that we did there. How did you end up being this way? Because, when you were born, man, you didn't come out of your mother and she didn't hold you in her arms and said, "Oh, we got an angry one." I wasn't born like that. What the hell happened?
Right.
How did I become this human being that can't handle, certain situations, that in certain situations I'm super confident, but in other situations I'm completely insecure? How did that happen? And I never thought about it that way. And it was an intellectual exercise. And when I got to, one of the things that I discovered really is that there was a moment when I was in the hospital where the first time that they rolled me into the shower, and I looked and I was laying on my back. This was about a month after my injury. I haven't seen myself in a mirror. And they rolled me into the shower and I'm laying on my back, and there's this spotlight in the ceiling above my head, like inside of the shower. And there's a chrome ring around the light. And for the first time I saw my reflection I saw my naked reflection in that ring in the ceiling, and I couldn't believe it. It's like I couldn't recognize myself. I looked like a ghost. I looked like a dead body, and it hit me in the chest like a bag of bricks. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's you. You're a broken man. Like, I'm done. I'm broken. I'm incapable. I can't do anything anymore. I'm finished. What woman's ever going to want me? Who's ever going to employ me? I can't move a goddamn couch. I can't change a freaking light bulb. Like, I'm done. I'm like a disgusting, pitiful, like a cripple. And on the flip side of that, that was so painful. That was such a low point for me that I then, to cope and compensate for that, I said to myself, I am going to show this whole freaking world that no one's going to mess with me. And no one messed with me. That's the funny part. On the one hand, I became this super effective, guy. On the other hand, you cannot be in a romantic relationship if you are invulnerable. Good luck. Good luck. And especially for a man, because I think any man who's ever in a relationship, your wife or your women are just going to chew you up and spit you out. Like, you can't mess. If you don't open up, and just good luck. It's not, it's going to blow up in your face. And that's what happened. It was like every relationship I was in romantically was like a minefield for me. It was just a matter of time. It was until it blows up in my face. And it always did. And it was because I was invulnerable. Yeah. So when I saw that, when I realized it, first thing, I burst out crying. I realized, oh my God, this is why nothing works for me. Because I cannot be vulnerable. I can't show weakness. And it was just like a load came off of my life, and suddenly I, like, being vulnerable or being weak, whatever that means, suddenly became available to me as a way that I could be, and that it's okay. That was the door that opened up. That was the initial thing. And of course, life just became a joy after that, because I didn't have to do this stupid act, this stupid thing, pretending thing that I'm some big hotshot. But really inside, I was so insecure. I couldn't stand myself. I couldn't look in the mirror with saying, like, God, how the hell? Look at you. Who's ever going to want you? Who's going to want you?
It's the show is called Live Courageously, and you clearly, and sometimes people think courage is just one thing, right? So it's physical courage or it's bravery, and it is all that, but it's a lot more when you live courageously. So you lived courageously when you were young, when you were in the military. You had that bravery, that I'm invincible, and then you when you got injured, you took on another kind of barrier around yourself to protect yourself. But when you made that choice to become vulnerable, when you made that choice to realize that you could cry, you could release this, you could be vulnerable to other people, that was another type of courage that you exhibited. You exhibited a different, but probably one of the most important kinds of courages that you ever needed in your life, to be able to let go of all that and step into a new identity that was even wider and broader than you were even previously. So I just throw that out to you to just kind of comment on. But what does live courageously mean to you, and how does that shown up in different ways in your life? And that's just me observing it from the outside and listening to you. But what's your take on it?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have to look. What does living courageously mean to me? I think that ultimately, living courageously to me means the real thing which is courageous to me is for a human being to give up, or who they think they are, and to try and discover who they really are. Okay. Now, I mean, that to me is really courageous. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't get blown away. Well, let's put it this way. Human beings, we have this kind of default way which we operate in life, okay? Or it doesn't matter if it's a human being or if it's a business, okay? Businesses, organizations, human beings, there's a default way in which we operate in life, right? And if you think about it, the way that we operate in life is actually a way that we kind of like to operate in life. See, you doing this podcast, it's kind of like a natural expression for you. You're doing it because you want to do it. I mean, it's very simple, that's how it is. So, you can ask, we have these heroes, okay? Like, I don't know, the quarterback, what's the Super Bowl quarterback, this young dude who, everyone's talking about right now, anyway, any star athlete, okay? Or like an astronaut, all these people that we kind of look up to them and we say, oh my God, that person is so extraordinary. And to tell you the truth, call me a jerk. I don't think those people are, I mean, compared to maybe other people, they're very high performers. But as a human being, I don't know if they're so extraordinary because they're just doing what they know how to do. If you go to a rocket science, I have a good friend in LA who's a rocket scientist. Okay, he works for Lockheed Martin. He works on the jets for F-35s or God knows what. It's confidential, so I don't know what he does. But he's a rocket scientist, right? Everyone is like amazed that he's a rocket scientist, and he's always like, I don't know what you guys want from my life because I'm a scientist. That's what I do. I do science. It's not an extraordinary thing for him, What is extraordinary for him is if you tell him to wear a tutu and go dance in the desert somewhere, that'll be a really extraordinary thing for him because he would have to detach himself from who he thinks he is and try on something that for him is mind-blowing, That takes courage. And so when I bump up against something that doesn't work for me in my life, I ask myself, who am I really? Why am I getting so upset by this thing? God, I mean, 2 days ago, I was in my car listening to this radio show, and there was this political debate, and they intentionally brought this radio guy on who is he's like the most extreme left wing you could ever imagine. Okay. Which he was saying stuff. It doesn't matter if he was left wing or right wing. I mean, it was just extreme, right? And he was saying stuff that made me cringe while I was driving. And I put my hand forward to close the radio because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. It was so angry, and then I had my finger on the dial and I thought to myself, no. This isn't you, it's like handle it. He's saying stuff and you don't like it. It doesn't make you feel great. So what? Just handle it, because I come from a household which is a little more, like more on the right of center. So I don't have the tolerance to listen to this guy. No, I have the tolerance to deal with anything. When I was born with the tolerance to deal with anything in life. So I don't know, I might be babbling too much, but living courageously is the ability to doubt who you think you are and to try on something new. That really turns me on.
Well, obviously, a little bit of my story, and I obviously, I look at it from the point of view, if I've had multiple identities in my life, I've changed identities. I was one thing and then I was something else and then I was something else. And I resonate with that because I think it's two parts. And no matter what you become or your new identity is, I have a new identity today and there's things that I believe strongly and all that, but it's being able to challenge them now, challenge my beliefs now, my identity now, being able to listen to people like you say, who totally disagree with what I believe and it doesn't phase me because it's like, yeah, I'm bigger than that. I can listen to it. I know when I was younger, I couldn't, because anybody who had a different opinion, well, how could they have that opinion? They're wrong. I'm right. I mean, come on. It's obvious I'm right and they're wrong. And rather than being able to see, that it's a strength to have the courage to be able to tolerate other views, to listen to other people, to find compassion about other people when you don't want to, when you'd rather slap them in the head, maybe, that's your initial reaction. But, your other reaction is, yeah, but that's not who I am now. That's who I used to be. Yeah, I'd slap them in the head. But now it's like, well, let me find the compassion. Let me find the tolerance. Let me find the listening. Let me be bigger to be able to absorb this and deal with it without it triggering things in me that it shouldn't. We're bigger than this, or we could be. We may not be, but we could be, and we could grow if we're willing to take that on. So I like what you're saying about that, and I think that makes sense. And more people now need it, no matter what your politics are, what side of the perspective you are. It's that ability to be bigger and have a bigger identity and be a bigger person that would make your life better if you did it.
Yeah.
And if for no other reason, do it for yourself. It ain't necessarily for others. Do it for yourself, so you have a bigger, happier, more joyful life. Do it, and then do it for your family and your friends, and it grows. But find a way to that place if you can. It's a good place to be.
Yep. Another take on that, by the way, Duffy, is like, see, that might be like kind of conceptual. Even the way that I said it might sound kind of like, yeah, just be another way. But another way to kind of bring it down to earth is I try and get for myself, I say, wow, I don't listen to people. And it's really funny to me that everyone, if you stop, 100 people on the street, I promise you that 90 of the 100, if you ask them, are you a good listener, will say yes, that they're a really good listener. Okay. But in reality, no one listens.
Sure.
And I don't even listen. See, because when that guy was talking on the radio, I wasn't listening to a word that he was saying.
Right.
I was listening to my own commentary and automatic backlash about what he was saying, and so that's kind of what grounds me when I think to myself, when I hate listening to someone, I think to myself, wow, I'm not listening to this guy at all. Let me just actually try and get what he's saying. And I might discover that there's like logic and sense and even some humanity and a lot of nice stuff in there that I was missing the whole time.
True.
Maybe.
Maybe not, but not, at least you have a shot at it, where the other way you had no shot at it, right? You shut it down. You didn't. Yeah, no, 100%. Hey, I'm going to try and pivot, if you don't mind, because we're getting up in the thing, and I want to talk about your music, and I would like to play. I mean, you have so many good songs, but I'd like to see if I can play one of them that I particularly love. But I want to, if you would shine to share your music journey and what you accomplished in Israel and then worldwide with your music, and just a little bit about that journey. And then, if you don't mind, I'll play that one song for the audience, because I think it's just very cool. So let me stop.
So at the end of business school, I was just finishing up my degree in business and entrepreneurship, and it's really amazing. Well, like probably one of the coolest business programs in Israel at the university that I was studying at, and there were auditions for, like, I guess you could. There was the biggest TV show, kind of like American Idol, but like Israeli Idol, and I went to auditions for that, and I got in, and I became a leading contestant on that show. Came to fame really quick, because that's what happens when you're on TV. It's unbelievable. And I had a really powerful year, really strong year in the Israeli music industry. Got very well known. And then I wanted to move to LA to do music in English. So for the last 8.5 years, that's where, that's how you and I met. I was living in LA doing music there, because that's where the global music industry was, still is, of course. And that's it, just creating music, performing all over the place, living the scene, and making music that I love. It was an amazing, amazing journey that is still going on today. And I today kind of live a double life. And I say that with pride. Many people know me for, like, lots of people know me for what I do outside of music, in the business and the transformative coaching world. And other people know me for my musical capabilities. And I kind of thread the two. I kind of like dancing at two weddings at the same time. And I love both things incredibly. And I do both things because I can. So, who says that you only have to do one thing?
Exactly. Well, definitely not you. You don't say that. That's for sure. Hey, I'm gonna put up this picture from the song. Maybe tell us a little bit about it. Then I'm gonna try and play the song if the technology works good for me. Here we go. So this is the song. If you can see on your screen.
Yeah.
So if you can just mention a little bit about that, and I know
this
you
is
do versions of it.
Yeah, this is the song is called Toda. Toda in Hebrew means thank you. And I wrote it. I released the single during COVID, in the middle of COVID, where, I mean, this was a song that was just kind of like downloaded one day. I was praying one day in my apartment in Los Angeles, and I'm telling you, like, the whole song just like bam came down in one piece. I went to the piano and I wrote the music to it, and it's just a song of gratitude to remember that at the end of the day, whatever's going on, wherever I am, just being grateful and saying thank you for everything, for the whole damn thing, Um, I have to tell you real quick. I have a good friend from LA who had a heart attack and passed away about half a year ago. Okay, and he has a 15-year-old son, and his son came over to Israel for like a program because the kid's going through all kinds of stuff right now, and his son stayed over my house for the weekend, and I got to spend some time with him. And I was sitting on the couch, and the kid said, he brought me to tears. I almost started crying. Right? I told him, "Do other kids in school piss you off or something like that?" He said, "Oh, wait a second. The camera's going to come back on. Here we go." I said, "Do other kids in school, say stuff to you?" And he said, "Yeah, I was bullied a little bit." And he said, I said, "What did they say that pissed you off?" And he said, he told me one of the kids hates his parents, and he said that if his parents would die, he wouldn't care. Okay, this is like a 16-year-old kid. And I said, "How'd you feel with that?" And he said, "I was really angry, but I didn't say anything about it." And I said, "Why didn't you say anything about it?" And he's like, "I don't know. I didn't want to start a conflict." And I said, "How do you feel about it?" And he said, "Well, I'm actually really grateful." I said, "Grateful? What are you grateful about? Like, how could you be grateful that your dad suddenly died at the age of 15? And he said, "Well, I have another friend who his dad died at the age of 6. So I'm just so grateful that I got to be with my dad until the age of 15.
Wow. Wow.
And I was just like, I mean, I'm even tearing up right now. I'm like, my God, like, this kid was so there's always, you can actually be grateful for the whole thing, for all of it. And you get to say how your life goes. You don't have to be grateful, but you can if you want to, if you say so. So that's what the song's about. It's called Toda. Thank you in Hebrew.
All right, let me try and get this up on the screen. And as we talk about that, let's see if I can.
You want me to do background music in the meantime?
You may have to do something in the meantime. Well, we can keep talking, but that was a powerful moment. I'm trying to get this as I'm going to screen, stop screen. Try it again. Whoops.
And another word about the song, and I think the song you're going to put on, it's the Hebrew version. So for anyone who's in the States and doesn't understand Hebrew.
No, I think this is the
the acoustic one?
Yeah, I'm going to play the one that you played together with everybody.
Good.
And then let's see tell me, are you seeing it?
I'm not seeing it. I can hear it, but I'm not seeing it.
You're hearing it, but you're not seeing it. All right. Well, that's not good. Let's see if we can share this screen. Why is it?
And in the night, sometimes I cry,
can't understand
Seeing it
There we
now?
go.
fire,
Yep.
and if I'll find the road to reason in my life. Keep standing at this door, afraid to step inside. And how the seasons change,
That's my brother, by the way.
like the dust
Oh,
on
is it?
barren paths, and people
I
wandering round.
I love both versions of
Still
it. I think I love the
disappointed
Hebrew
from the
version
past.
better, but I love
I've
both
got a
versions.
silent prayer that puts my feet back on the ground. It's all the way it's meant to be. I hear the sound. Toda, for everything you've given me. Toda, for everything you always give. Toda, for everything you give. Toda. Na, 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 na. Who knows that which remains unseen? You know my secrets, my desires, and where I've been. I thought by now I could be free to know my purpose, know my home, and just be me. And how the seasons change, just like the dust on barren paths, and people wandering round, still disappointed from the past. I've got a silent prayer that puts my feet back on the ground. It's all the way it's meant to be. I hear the sound. Toda, for everything you've given me. Toda, for everything you always give. Toda, for everything you give. Toda. Oh, Toda, for everything you've given me. Toda, for everything you always give. Toda, for everything you give. Toda. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. 2, 3, and Toda, for everything you've given me. Toda, for everything you always give. Toda, for everything you give. Toda.
All right. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And what a great song, man. I love it. And I love the
Thanks.
message, obviously. And I'm so grateful to have met you and have you in my life. And I'm grateful for the way you show up in the world. I appreciate it, man. That's a beautiful song, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
coming close to kind of finishing up. So if you have any thoughts, but I'm going to just quickly put up this a little post of yours, which I think summarizes a little bit of your attitude. And you get to say how your life goes. I just love that too. And that just captures who you are. But anything you want to say, to wrap up, and also what's the future look like for you? Where are you headed? Obviously, you have two lives. You have the business and the transformational coaching. You have the music, and you obviously get into more things than you can handle, and I identify with all that as well. So what do you have going forward, and what's next?
Well, what's next? The things that I'm really working on right now at the moment. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, but the two main things right now is on the musical level, there are a bunch of new songs that are going to come out this year, and anyone who wants to check out my music can find it, on whatever social media platforms. On YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and of course you can hear songs on Spotify and Apple Music. If you look for Ronnie W Music, it's RONNY W Music. Okay. And or just Ronnie RONNY space W on Spotify and Apple Music. So that's in the musical realm. And the other thing that I'm working on very heavily right now, which is really incredible and I love, we didn't get much talk about it here, is that I established the Israeli branch of Mark Kamen and Associates, which is a world-class, just one of the most incredible business consulting firms on the planet. And I mean, we work with over 100 companies at any given time. I mean, we've worked with everything from Boeing to Ford Aerospace to the FBI to, Wells Fargo and IBM and you name it, giant companies all the way down to medium-sized companies and startups. And any company or business that wants to have a transformation in their organizational culture or wants to train and develop their leaders to be just, the most extraordinary versions of who they really are, and to chisel away at those ways of being that, that don't work, and to chisel away at them so that performance could just explode. I'm talking from 100% to 500% leaps in performance. That's our craft. That's what we do. That's what I do in my business life. And I'm really excited to start that up here in Israel because, I mean, we need that more than ever here. It just brings people together and it brings prosperity, peace of mind, resolution, and satisfaction to many, many people. And of course, to get to that, anyone who's interested in, looking more into that world, if you have a business or an organization, you want to talk about that, then you can go to our website, which is MKA, Mark Kamen Associates, MKA-world.com, www.mka-world.com.
So mka-world.com,
Yep.
mka-world.com. So we'll have to do another show at some point, but this is the biggest problem Ron, with all this is when you go on and you got an hour and you're like, that ain't gonna happen. I mean, that ain't no way. So you have way too much life and too much lessons and too much wisdom and too much experiences. And just like, I love your social media because one thing I find is just, you're truly unique in the way that you take things on and you get into conversations with people and you challenge people and then you challenge yourself. And then you reverse what you might've said and rethink it and come up with a different perspective. And then you have a great sense of humor that comes across in that. So if anybody wants to catch some of that, those great insights that you share on Facebook and social media, that's also another place. Cause I always enjoy reading your stuff. It's always a blast.
Yeah, you enjoy reading my stuff there, but the other half of the world gets pissed off when they read my stuff. But but that's okay.
That is true. That is true. But that's another part of you. Maybe that's another identity because you provoke people, and in that provoking, some people can handle getting provoked, and some people can't. Unfortunately, I think it's healthier to be able. Like I hang out with people. Like when I'm on movie sets, my closest people, we spend the time making fun of each other. And we just goof on each other constantly where, other people they watch it and they're like, well, how come you don't get offended? Because I love that person. He's just making fun. She's just making fun of me. We're doing the same out of love. And when you have that, humor doesn't make you get upset if somebody said something about you or your family. Look, we're having fun together. We love each other. And that's just one form of it. But people need to let go more and understand that, the best way we get to appreciate each other is to have that kind of back and forth with each other and not, you can't provoke me. I'm going to try and love you no matter what. You just can't that's just who I am. It's just not what I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I get for you. You do. I don't do provoking. You do it. It's kind of like a comic talent that you got, and it's fun to watch. I must say, it's fun to watch.
I take it as I think it's important. I don't know, call me crazy, but I think it's important to provoke life, because, to be an interruption, to interrupt people's lives, I think is a blessing, and if someone just wants to watch TV for the rest of their life, you bet your ass I'm going to want to provoke you, because whoever's watching this, or this goes for any human being, okay? The amount of difference and that you can make with your life and who you really are is so big that it's beyond, what's fathomable for you. But, life just has a way that it goes on from day to day. Shakespeare said that life crawls at its petty pace. Just one day and another day. It's like, it's just this tranquilized obviousness of another day, and I'm going to watch TV again. And then, and then suddenly you die. At some point, right, you hit your deathbed, and it's like the end, and you think, what the hell? So any provocation is a blessing to me. And if someone pisses me off, by the way, then it's an opportunity. I take it as an opportunity to look like, damn, look at that. There's something in me that's like vulnerable. I need to get bigger. I need to get bigger. Right. So
I think that's a great message to people. I think that's a great way to live. It's just provoke life, get bigger, man. Because there's just so much. Playing small is never gonna lead to a good life. You got to play big. You got to play big, and you got to get provoked, like you say. So I think that's a great way to kind of come to the close. Anything else you want to say? I've had a blast talking to you. Hopefully the next time we're going to do this, we'll do it together in Israel. That would be a provoking life to get me over there and have a journey together.
Amen. It's not a big provocation. It's $800 away. You got a place to be. The last thing I want to say is that I love you, that you're awesome. Thanks for doing this. This is a really important thing. It's a big deal. And any connection point, any access point to provoke people and to give them another point of view of who they really are and who they can be is a God-given blessing to humanity. So keep on doing this. It's awesome. And thank you for honoring me by inviting me to participate in this creation.
Well, thank you, man. I love you too, brother. And it's been, I always say I'm blessed, and obviously God has a bigger plan for my life than I ever had, because I'm blessed by the people I meet. It's probably the biggest blessing in my life is to have come across and become brothers and friends with people like you, who are living life big and provoking life. And every day I wake up and I'm just freaking grateful that I get to have people like this in my life, like yourself. So I love you too, brother. And thank you for taking the time from Israel. I know it's late at night over there, and thank you for joining me.
All right. Thanks, JD.
All right. Have a great
Bye, guys.
You got it. All right. Well, that was wow. Just an amazing show, an amazing amount of material, both incredible music. I love that song, Todai. And just Ron is an amazing person. I think he shared a lot of experience, wisdom with you. And like I said, I'm blessed to know these courageous people like Ron, who show up in the world and challenge us to live bigger, challenge us to be more than we're showing up in the world right now. So I thank you to Ron. Thank you to everybody who's watching this show. Continue to watch. I'm going to continue to do it. Like I said, I got about 65 more amazing friends, and it just keeps growing every day, because it seems like I keep running into more people who become my friend that I want to share with the world. So thank you, everybody. Whatever you do, please find a way to have faith over fear and live courageously. And until I see you next week with another great guest that you're going to love, Lieutenant Colonel from the U.S. Marines, who's lived an amazing, courageous life as well. So Kevin Schmiegel. So please join me next Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live courageously. And you can watch this show on YouTube on Live Courageously. You can watch this show on John Duffy on YouTube, Live Courageously, and share it with your friends. And have a great day, and God bless.